Ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurs of tomorrow, visionaries in the making, and change makers, it's an absolute pleasure to stand before you today. It's not every day that I get the opportunity to talk to a room full of passionate people who are just starting their journey toward success. Now, before I dive into the main message, let me start by asking you something. Have you ever noticed how some people work so hard, yet feel the need to broadcast it to the world? They announce every sleepless night, every struggle, every little win, like it's a personal press conference. And no disrespect to those people. I mean, we live in a world where social media exists, and we all want to feel validated. But I'm here to suggest an alternative. Work hard in silence. Why? Because sometimes silence is the most powerful noise you can make. When you focus on the work, on the grind, and not on the applause, you allow the results to do the talking. Success, after all, is the best microphone. Before we get to silence, let's talk about hard work. This is the first part of our journey because without hard work, silence is just laziness in disguise. You can't sit back, do nothing, and hope that silence will magically bring success. No, my friends, hard work is the engine that drives the silence and eventually the applause. Hard work is non-negotiable. You've probably heard this 1,000 times before. You need to work hard to be successful. And as much as it sounds like a cliche, it's the truth. No matter how brilliant your idea is, no matter how well connected you are, nothing substitutes for good old-fashioned effort. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I've seen people who didn't seem to work hard and they're successful. Ah, yes. Well, let me tell you a little secret. Just because someone didn't show you their struggles doesn't mean they didn't have any. Behind every overnight success, there's usually a decade of unglamorous hard work. And behind every smooth presentation, there's a mountain of preparation that no one saw. I'll give you an example. Ever heard of an overnight success story in business? Maybe someone who launched an app or a product that took off like wildfire. You see the headlines, you hear the buzz, but what you don't see are the endless nights they spent coding, networking, pitching, and failing until that moment came. Success is like an iceberg. The public only sees the tip, but all the hard work is beneath the surface. Success loves preparation. The thing about hard work is that it doesn't always pay off immediately. Sometimes it feels like you're pouring effort into a black hole, but that's where faith comes in. Faith in your process, in your vision, and in the journey. Look at athletes. Do you think Olympians train for the gold medal a few weeks before the Olympics? No. They train for years every day in the early mornings when no one is watching. The payoff is not immediate, but when the moment of competition arrives, they're ready. That's how you need to think about your entrepreneurial journey. The work you put in now in silence prepares you for the moment when your opportunity comes. There's a saying that goes, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. If you're prepared, if you've worked hard and honed your craft in silence, luck won't be an accident, it'll be the logical outcome. Master your craft. Hard work isn't just about putting in long hours. It's about deliberate practice. It's about mastering your craft. Whether you're coding, designing, selling, writing, or building relationships, your hard work should have direction. The worst thing you can do is work hard in a way that's aimless. Think of it like digging for treasure. You don't just randomly dig holes all over the place. You have to study the map, find the right spot, and then dig deep in one place. That's how you strike gold. So, don't confuse activity with productivity. Always ask yourself, is this work moving me closer to my goal, or am I just busy being busy? And that's where silence comes in. When you're focused on mastering your craft, there's no time for noise. You're in the zone, working on getting better, refining your skills. Let the noisemakers scream about their hustle. You stay focused. Now that we've talked about hard work, let's discuss the silence part. Why is silence important? In a world where everyone is shouting about their achievements, why should you take the opposite approach? Focus on the process, not the praise. One of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make is focusing too much on external validation. I mean, we all want to feel appreciated, don't we? Whether it's through likes on Instagram, applause from our peers, or recognition from our industry. But here's the problem. The moment you start craving applause, you stop focusing on the process. And it's the process, the daily grind, the work behind the scenes that leads to real success. Let me share a story. Thomas Edison once said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." Edison didn't care about showing off his work in progress. He cared about the final product. He focused on experimenting and refining his inventions. He didn't spend time writing blog posts about how hard he was working on the light bulb. No, he worked in silence until he had something worth showing. If you're constantly seeking approval for every step you take, you're wasting energy that could be used to refine your ideas, improve your skills, and execute better. Praise is a byproduct of success, not the goal itself. Avoid the trap of social media. Social media. The wonderful place where everyone's life seems perfect. As an entrepreneur, it's easy to get caught in the trap of comparing yourself to others. You see someone posting about their big new client or their 6-figure launch, and you start feeling like you need to show off your progress too. But let me give you some real talk. Social media is often just a highlight reel. What people post is the success, not the struggle. You don't see the failed meetings, the sleepless nights, the anxiety behind the scenes. So don't feel pressured to keep up appearances. Work hard, but work quietly. Silence is a tool that allows you to focus on what truly matters, your own journey, not how others perceive it. You don't owe anyone an explanation. This one is personal, but I think it's important to say, you don't owe anyone an explanation for your hustle. Often, when you're working on something big, people will ask questions. What are you working on now? Why aren't you posting about your progress? And the temptation to respond is strong. But here's the thing, you don't need to justify your silence. Your success will speak for itself when the time comes. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. Stay so focused on your work that you don't even have time to explain it. Your results will do all the explaining necessary. Build resilience in solitude. Silence builds resilience. When you're not constantly seeking validation from others, you learn to validate yourself. You learn to trust your instincts and your vision. As an entrepreneur, you'll face moments of doubt, moments where everything seems to be falling apart and no one is around to cheer you on. In those moments, your ability to push forward will come from within. If you've always depended on applause or validation, you'll crumble. But if you've built your resilience in silence, you'll have the inner strength to keep going. You'll know that your value isn't tied to what others think of you. It's tied to what you're capable of achieving. So we've talked about hard work. We've talked about silence. And now we arrive at the best part, results. The funny thing about working hard in silence is that when your results finally show up, they speak louder than any words ever could. Let success be your noise. When you've worked hard and built something amazing, you don't need to shout about it. Success has a way of announcing itself. Whether it's a product launch, a business milestone, or a personal achievement, your results will be undeniable. And trust me, when you get there, people will take notice whether you want them to or not. Think of it like a big reveal. When you've been working in silence, there's an element of surprise. People don't see it coming. It's like baking a cake and waiting until it's perfectly frosted before you bring it out. When you finally show up with that beautifully baked cake, everyone's going to want a slice. But if you keep telling people, hey, I'm baking a cake, every 5 minutes, you lose the element of surprise, and by the time it's done, no one's really impressed. Sustainable success versus flashy wins. Flash-in-the-pan success might get you momentary attention, but sustainable success comes from consistent, quiet effort. In the world of entrepreneurship, consistency is more valuable than a one-time big win. You want to build something that lasts, something that continues to grow even when you're not posting about it. Consider this. Would you rather have one big viral moment or a long-term successful business that continues to thrive year after year? Viral moments are exciting, but they're fleeting. Real success is built on the foundation of hard work done in silence. Earn respect, don't demand it. In the entrepreneurial world, respect is something you earn through your work, not something you demand. And the best way to earn that respect is by letting your work speak for itself. When you've quietly built something amazing, people will respect you not because you asked for it, but because you deserve it. I'm sure you've encountered people who constantly talk about how hard they're working or how much they've achieved. It's exhausting, isn't it? Those people might get attention, but they rarely earn long-term respect. True respect comes from showing up consistently, delivering results, and being the person who doesn't need to broadcast every move. The best revenge is massive success. There will always be doubters. There will always be people who tell you that you can't do it, that you're dreaming too big, or that your idea is too ambitious. And in those moments, you might be tempted to argue, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong with words. But the best revenge is massive success. When you work hard in silence and let your results do the talking, those doubters won't have anything to say. They'll be silenced by your success. Remember the story of Steve Jobs? When he was ousted from Apple, he didn't spend his time bad-mouthing the board or trying to explain himself to the world. He went on to build something else, Pixar, and then returned to Apple with even greater success. That's what working hard in silence looks like. You don't need to fight every battle with words. Sometimes the best way to win is to let your success do the talking. All right, I've talked a lot about the philosophy behind work hard in silence, but let's get practical. How can you actually implement this in your entrepreneurial journey? Here are a few tips. Set clear goals, but don't broadcast them. It's great to have big, audacious goals, but you don't need to announce them to the world. Instead, keep your goals private and focus on executing them. Share your wins when they're real, not when they're just ideas. Find a quiet space to work. In today's noisy world, finding silence can be tough, but it's essential. Whether it's a dedicated workspace, a quiet cafe, or a few hours in the early morning, find a time and place where you can focus without distractions. Surround yourself with people who get it. You don't need to work in total isolation, but you do need to be selective about who you share your journey with. Find mentors, advisors, or friends who understand the value of hard work and don't need constant updates. These are the people who will support you in silence without needing to hear every detail. Celebrate small wins privately. It's important to celebrate your progress, but you don't always need to do it publicly. Give yourself the satisfaction of knowing you're moving forward, even if no one else sees it yet. Keep learning and growing. Finally, never stop learning. As an entrepreneur, your journey will never be a straight line. There will be detours, failures, and setbacks. But as long as you're committed to growth, both personally and professionally, you'll continue to move forward. As I wrap up this speech, I want you to remember one thing. Work hard in silence, because the real work isn't glamorous, and the most meaningful success doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops. Success is like a whisper that turns into a roar. At first, no one can hear it, but when it comes, it's impossible to ignore. Focus on your craft. Build something real. Let your success be so loud that people can't help but notice when the time comes. And until then, keep grinding in the quiet, knowing that you're creating something extraordinary. Thank you and good luck on your entrepreneurial journeys.